What is up, everyone? JD Geeks here. Today, we have a pretty cool Nerf secondary blaster. This is the Riot. This is a Flywheel secondary blaster that is 3D printed, and it takes Talon magazines, as you can see with the magwell right here. This thing is pretty insane. It is a semi-auto blaster with a 2-stage trigger, but as fast as you can squeeze the trigger, this blaster can shoot. This thing is absolutely crazy. My buddy's been using this in a ton of different games recently, and he does really, really well with it. It has a really nice blue looking color on the top here in the trigger and the magwell, and then a black down at the base. So some people might think that's a little bit too realistic looking because of the really dark blue on the black, but it does have an orange tip. At least there's that. This blaster is very, very fun to use, and I'm actually really excited to see how it performs. That does wrap up my overall first impressions of the blaster. So let's head to the chronograph and FPS test it, and then head to the accuracy test. I will see you at the chronograph. Alrighty, so here we are at the chronograph with the Riot. This blaster is fairly loud, so I'm not going to be speaking too much. I'll probably go through all 5 shots for each type, and then I will say what the average was, and then move on to the next one. So the first dart type that we're using are Worker Gen 3s. So the average FPS for the Worker Gen 3s was probably right around 170, which is pretty impressive for the Riot right here, for a Flywheel blaster. And from what I've seen with this blaster, when my buddy uses it, is it is pretty accurate. But we'll have to wait and see on that for the accuracy test. So let's move on to the Saber Heavy Ts. So that was hitting right around 160, which is not bad at all. That was pretty crazy. But now we're moving on to the bamboo darts. These should be hitting, in my opinion, a little bit slower because there's not as much to grab onto, but it might be pretty good because it is a 4-ring bamboo. But most of the times, bamboos are slower in Flywheel blasters. So let's see what we're hitting. Those darts were hitting right around 150, so just a tad bit slower as I expected. But now let's move on to the older Dart Zone bamboo darts. All right, so those were actually hitting right around, I'd like to say, 160, which is a little bit faster than the bamboo darts, but definitely slower than the normal worker darts. So normal worker darts are probably the way to go with this thing. But now for the Nitro Shot Plus darts. Let's see how these do. And last one. So this blaster is definitely hitting pretty hard, especially for a Flywheel Nerf secondary. But overall, this thing is pretty cool and pretty fun to use. So let's go do an accuracy test on this blaster, and then we'll wrap up our final review. I will see you at the target. All right, we are now here with the Riot. This is technically, in my opinion, a secondary. So what I'm going to be doing is 5 shots and then moving up to the 25-foot marker, just like I've done with all of my other secondaries. So let's see how this does. Little low. Hit. Off to the right. Off to the right again. And last shot. Little high. This thing is very, very loud, but this thing does seem to shoot pretty accurately overall, especially for a flywheeler without a B car. Let's actually get the last 10 shots off, and then I'm not going to mention what shots hit or what don't, just so the flywheels can keep revving, but I will talk about it a bit after. So here we go, 10 shots. So, although the Riot is very loud, it is very, very snappy, and it looks very, very cool. The fact that it can take just normal worker talon mags makes this thing pretty freaking awesome. I do really, really like this blaster. It is probably one of my favorite 3D printed secondaries that you can get, that I've at least messed with. I've only messed with a few, but this one is definitely up there. I do actually really like the color scheme that my buddy printed on it. But that's enough talking about the accuracy test. Let's go back to the display room and wrap up our final review. Alrighty, we are now back from the FPS test and the accuracy test with the Riot. Man, is this thing a riot? Pun intended, but this thing is absolutely crazy and very, very fun to use. I had a blast using this thing. Would I personally run it? No, because I like having a pistol holster, and this thing you would need more like a dump pouch in order to use, but this thing is definitely fun to have. If you would like to have a cool blaster, or even use this thing as a primary, and you just run a bunch of talon mags and you're just running around shooting, that could be a cool thing for you to do. My buddy does actually have like an SMG kit for it, and it makes this blaster look pretty cool, but I did want it in the pistol format. This blaster, again, is a very, very good blaster. It's very, very fun to use, and I did really, really enjoy this thing. So I would recommend it, but if you do have any questions or comments, please leave it in the comment section below. This is JD Geeks signing off. I will see you in the next one.